Today's video is sponsored by Grim Hollow. Brian Von VA here, back at it again with something quite hilarious, I think. At least I think you guys will have a good laugh at it. Dungeon Masters of Reddit. What is the most ridiculous thing that has happened in a game of D&D? Part 1. A player wanted to join the party with an amazing grand entrance, so I had the team start the adventure without him and get ambushed by orcs. So the player, who had a paladin, enters the scene riding a beautiful white horse and tries to attack the strongest orc. He got 3 consecutive critical fails and died self-impaled by his own sword. It's only the first story. Just before we get into the meat and taters of the vid, let's talk a little bit about Grim Hollow. Etharis is a world full of shadows and death. A world far from the light and far from the sane, giving the players and DM a taste of what it means to adventure in a dark fantasy, horror-themed world. Unique characters with brand new spells, feats, and variants are all yours to explore as you willingly or unwillingly submit yourself to the creatures of the night, such as a vampire, a fiend, or even a lich. Creatures in Grim Hollow are also sure to haunt your dreams and to flourish in your nightmares thanks to their beautiful artwork and their frighteningly in-depth lore. Regardless if you're a new player or an old veteran, this module has enough new information to satisfy all of your darkest desires, leaving you shocked and in awe at every twist and every turn. Check out Grim Hollow and give it an order now. Links are in the description below. Dwarven monk gets picked up by a dragon in its maw or claw. Can't remember which. Dragon flies up really high and drops the dwarf. On the same round, arcane archer imbues Featherfall in an arrow, shoots it at the dwarf. The dwarf has a Pathfinder feat that allows arrow grabbing, upgraded version of deflect arrows. He can pluck a single shot out of the air. Dwarf snatches the arrow, GM rules that the spell should technically go off, so it does. Dwarf floats to the ground. Level 5 group, I think? We climbed this massive tower to talk to this dragon. My bard's Dax, Flaw, was fearless. So I freely walk up to the thing and luckily it speaks common. So I try to convince it to fly off because the villagers around here are scared shitless and there's nice mountains nearby. I fail fucking miserably and it starts mauling me. My party all had readied actions and did enough DPS to make the dragon flee. As it lifts off the top of the tower and begins to fly away, one member casts Tasha's Hideous Laughter, forcing the dragon into a laughing fit. He falls and splat. Dragon pancake, new at IHOP. So there was a fountain of red liquid. Someone, being an impulsive ranger, stuck their head in the fountain. He was lit on fire by the magical water. He died instantly. He was the main utility member of the group. They all died in the next encounter, mostly because of a lack of utility. Dumbass. 2 players were looking for an NPC in the forest. All they knew was that she was married to another woman. The elf rogue said to the tabaxi fighter that he should lie on the ground in this dark forest and meow, claiming that would draw the NPC out because, I quote, "Lesbians love cats." What? I quietly Googled Wolf Stats 5e while they planned it. Edit. Just to say, I had them roll a deception check to see if it would actually work, and even gave advantage since a tabaxi could probably make a pretty convincing regular cat noises, but they would have needed an extremely high roll, and unfortunately they failed, so I had to let the dogs out. I wasn't the DM, but it was ridiculous. It was a 3.5 Forgotten Realms campaign. A botched teleport roll had landed us in Chult, a jungle peninsula home to dinosaurs. Our druid shapeshifted into the form of a sparrow to scout about and get the lay of the land. He was almost immediately eaten by a passing petrodactyl. Our wizard, cleric, and sorcerer/barbarian/spellblade used a dimension door to get to the back of the petrodactyl. The druid rescue team manages to set the petrodactyl on fire somehow. At the same time, the druid shifted into a dire bear and started tearing his way out from the inside. Ooh, that's cool. The final metal album cover worthy image was a flaming petrodactyl crashing into a jungle, a bear ripping its way out from the inside, while a bare-chested barbarian rode on its back, a great sword held to the sky. Man sandwich. I don't even know why that's funny. At one point, the party stops at a small village that had a restaurant with all sorts of options, including Subway-style sandwiches where you tell them what you want on it and they make it right there. One PC, man, decided he wanted a sandwich with ham on it. One of the other PCs who was with him was like, ham? Everyone knows salami is better. Long story short, the entire table was jokingly arguing in character about which meat option is best. I'm behind my screen laughing my head off and just randomly decided to roll a d6 to see how the person making the sandwich reacts. I often roll to see if something random happens. I rolled a 1, so I interrupt the player's sandwich argument to tell man the person making the sandwich tells him that that would be 1 silver. The party looks and sees that literally everything that could have been put on the sandwich is on the sandwich. They don't have anything left to make more sandwiches. The best part, man pays for the sandwich and eats the entire thing by himself. Ever since, there has been a running joke about man and his sandwich. I missed that group, and I already love that story to pieces. The player is leaping off of a roof to surprise the 2 guards below. I roll a reaction check for the first guard, and he critically fails. So I say, the first guard is looking up at you thinking, I wonder who that is and if he'll be friends with me. As I begin to roll the second guard's reaction, another player says, whereas the other guard is thinking, oh no, not again. 5 minutes later, when we all stopped laughing, I decided that that was the most appropriate result and never even bothered rolling. Not a DM, but in a game I played, there was a player who managed to convince the DM to let him play a skeleton rogue, which he named Luigi. Throughout the campaign, Luigi managed to pull off a few things. One time we were going through a goblin fortress and we're approaching a big room with about 6 goblins, 4 hobgoblins, and a hobgoblin captain. Luigi sneaks by them unnoticed and goes into a room on the opposite side of the room they were currently in. Walking into the room, he found 3 prisoners who he very quickly released. While the rest of us are hiding outside of this room, we see Luigi kick open the door of the room he was in and screamed out, "Check this shit!" One of the prisoners then threw a small barrel of gunpowder into the middle of the room, which Luigi bought prior to coming to the fortress, and then Luigi fired a flaming arrow at it, causing it to explode, killing everything in the room, with the exception of a goblinling and the hobgoblin captain. The other time, we were on an island trying to help defend the local tribe from some constructs that came by warboat. Luigi sneaks on the ship and managed to find his way into the lower decks. After investigating for a bit while everyone else is fighting outside, Luigi finds a shaft that the constructs were loading burnable fuel into that leads out to the top deck. Luigi climbs in, uses an amulet that reduces his weight for an hour, pulls out a cloak, and using one hand begins to rise out of the shaft. Once he's about halfway out, he opens the bag of holding around his waist, he drops 10 bombs into the shaft, they explode, and Luigi gets launched out. Once outside, Luigi then glides back to safety. The last time we got to see Luigi's antics was when he sacrificed himself for our party by putting 2 bags of holding into each other to protect us from an ancient green dragon. Aw, rest in peace, Luigi. And I'm so sorry if I pronounced your name entirely wrong this whole time. You deserved better. Our turtle of the group is a rogue, was trying to sneak into the house of the rest of the group was already in, and fell through the roof into a room with half a dozen cats. Half-elf sorcerer goes in to see what has happened and tries to use animal handling upon seeing all the cats as to shoo them away, rolls 3 nat 1s. And cats multiply to where there was about 3 dozen of them in the room now. I makes them both roll animal handling in order to see if they can make it out of the room. The turtle rolls a 20, so makes it through. The half-elf rolls a 3, thus making all the cats not move out of the way, but follow him throughout the rest of the house. And now, totally embraces the fact that he's got a bunch of cats following him everywhere. Note, at the beginning of the last handful of sessions, I've been making him roll animal handling in order to dwindle the amount of cats he has. He's down to 10. So hard to pick just one. Wizard player made a portal gun. Rogue player built a ballista inside a bag of holding and had it on a hair trigger attached to a rope hanging outside of the bag, because legally he could sneak attack with it. Through the use of Mage Hand and a system of gears, another wizard made a perpetual motion machine to electrically power a small city. Party single-handedly bankrupt a mining empire through the use of create object spells and selling the raw material for 1/100th of its market value. Cross-classed barbarian stopped an orcish invasion by forcibly engaging in enthusiastic intercourse with the orc leader until he agreed to leave with his army. That's one way to do it. Bard player functioned as a competent combat tank and did not roll to seduce anything. I am disgusted and confused. Planar Shepherd teleported an angry necro-treant to the plane of fire and thus saved the party from what was going to be a terrible beating. Not a DM, but a player. We had an incident that opened up the door to a whole new kind of possibilities. We had played a homebrew that my brother spent some time on, with him saying that he had something surprising in store. Into our 4th session, we had a bounty given to us by a small town wanting us to deal with a tribe of some 30-ish goblins that were terrorizing the town. Okay, we think, sounds simple enough, let's go kill some goblins. We get there, get through some of the guards, but what we find is not some goblin encampment, it's a fully functioning town composed of just goblins. A blacksmith, a small shop with its bits and baubles, almost the whole 9 yards. Our tiefling wild mage happened to know some goblin, so he got communicating with them, specifically their leader, Groofnock. Turns out, it was a situation of there was always a bigger fish. There was a group of orcs that were terrorizing the goblins, and the goblins had been sending scouts to the town to get some help, but the townsfolk always mistook it as an invasion attempt. So by extension, we have to kill the orcs. Okay, we think. A little high level for us, we are mostly at a level 4 or 5 by this point, but we can handle it. We go there, kill the orcs, come back to the goblins, and they are very thankful. So much so that they grant us their full service. And just like that, we are now the sole protectors and semi-leaders of a level 3 warlock, 5 level 2 fighters, 8 level 2 clerics, and all the other goblins are either rogues or clerics, some being children. We were allowed to take any of the people with us to help us on quests, at the consequence of having to operate more than one character sheet, but it was worth it and it got pretty incredible. Our tiefling took some of the children to be what he called a scouting team. All 3 of them are rogue ones with high dex, making them amazing at sneaking around. Our DM made character sheets for every single goblin in the village, totaling 36 sheets. They were considered the scouting party. They were all killed by the end though, aww. Our barbarian had 3 of the guard, those level 2 fighters I mentioned, hiding in his bag at all times. Whenever things got rough, he would let them out and make them help with the dirty work. They worked some magic whilst they were fighting together, and the barbarian would say every time he would let the goblins out of his duffel, he would scream in character, "Face the mighty horde and tremble!" We always cracked up when he said that. And me, I was a meek little druid, so I had some of the children come along with me, all of which were clerics so they could heal me during battle. I treated them well. I even got them to have a level pitched into druid. After the campaign, I went and took care of the town of goblins that slowly grew into a city of thousands, goblins and humans living together, and it became a hub for many races long afterwards, according to my brother. I had a lot of fun with it, and I hope we could do it again. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here, hoping you had some belly laughs with me and enjoyed the stories today. If you liked the video, leave a like, of course, and if you aren't subscribed already, then roll a d20 and subscribe no matter what the result is, unless it's a 1, in which case take that die, smash it, and then burn the ashes. If you want to submit your own stories, head on over to our subreddit r/MrRipper and plop yours in a pre-existing thread, or make one of your very own. We never know, you might have something really cool you want to have the whole world in on. Also, check MrRipper out on his Twitter and join his TTRPG group finding Discord. Links are all in the description below. Using a help action, you can always come say hi to me on my YouTube, Twitter, or Discord too, known as Brian Von VA, where I talk about voice acting goodies and stream some games. Again, links in the description. As always, check out our sponsor for today's video, Grim Hollow, which fits the theme of the month, spooky, scary skeleton times. I love everything horror related, and if you are interested even a little bit in a darker campaign with some nasty and gritty twists, Grim Hollow has you covered. With that said, I hope you are enjoying October this year. I know it isn't ideal considering the circumstances, but at least consider dusting off some of your old favorite horror stories and movies to get into the chilly spirit of Spooktober. Cozy on up by the fire in your heart, and with your favorite warm brew, be it coffee, tea, or even hot chocolate, bust out all the spooky things you like. Heck, while you're indoors, why don't you try a bit of a craft while you're here? Buy some pumpkins or some melons, carve them up, try to make a jack-o'-lantern. Hey, you know, whatever you can do to get your mind away from the mundane sorrow of the world right now, and doing something cool and relaxing always helps. We all need something to help us these days. Might as well embrace the Halloween spirit and then share it with others, am I right? Can't hurt. All the love, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.